ASMR video. For today's video, we're going to be doing Europa League predictions. Someone in the comments of the last video were saying to do a Europa League predictions video, so here it is. To lay out some basic ground rules, these predictions are purely based off the stats that I find on the official UEFA website. So if you want to check the stats out on your own time, I'll leave a link down below to the websites that I used. And pretty much the metrics that we're going to be using are the games that, obviously we're going to be going with the games they played, but we're going to be going the games won, the games drawn, and the games lost, the goals scored, the goals conceded, their form as of their last 3 games, their biggest win and their biggest loss. Another thing to add is that the Europa League does not play the round of 16 the same time as the Champions League. Champions League plays the round of 16, and at the same time the Europa League plays something called the playoff round. Pretty much the playoff round is pretty much like it's an extra stage that is played prior to the round of 16, and the teams that play in that stage are the teams that got 3rd place in the Champions League that get demoted down to the Europa League, and the teams that are runner-up in their Europa League groups play those teams, and pretty much those teams play each other, and the winner of those then qualify to the round of 16 of the Europa League. And the teams that won their group in the Europa League, those teams get an automatic bye to the round of 16. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know down below if you guys are confused, and or someone down below can explain the rules better than I can. So yeah, but yeah, before we get started though, let me name the teams that have automatically qualified to the round of 16. So those teams are Atalanta, Brighton, Bayern Leverkusen, Liverpool, Rangers, and then Slavia Prague, and also Villarreal and West Ham. So those are the 8 teams that have automatically qualified to the round of 16 by winning the Europa League groups or getting top seed in their respective groups. So let's go over the fixtures. So the first fixture we have is Feyenoord against Roma. Feyenoord being the team that was demoted from the Champions League, getting 3rd place in their group. So they played 6 games, won 2 ice, drawn 0, and lost 4. They have scored 9 goals, but they have conceded 10. They have their last 3 games have all been losses, so 3 losses. Their biggest win is a 3-1 win against Lazio in the Champions League, and their biggest loss is a 3-1 loss against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. Their opponents are Roma. 6 games played, 4 wins, 1 drawn, 1 loss. 12 goals scored, 4 conceded. Their last 3 games are a loss, a draw, and a win. Their biggest win is a 4-0 win against Severets, and their biggest loss is a 2-0 loss against Slavia Prague. So both of these teams are they're good teams, obviously, but Feyenoord coming down in the Champions League from a group that consists Lazio, Celtic, and Atletico Madrid, only managed to win twice, lost 4 times, no draws. So their goal difference is -1. They have -1, which is not good. Their form is all 3 have been losses. All 3 of the last 3 games have been losses, and their biggest loss is a 3-1 loss. So yeah, fairly strong opponents in the Champions League, obviously, but very lackluster. Roma, on the other hand, that's a +8 goal difference, scoring 12, conceding 4, so very solid defensively in terms of goals conceded. Their biggest win 4-0, and their biggest loss is 2-0. So the one thing you can take away from this is that Feyenoord, when they lose, they can at least score a goal, or that looks like they have a bit more fight in them in terms of the as opposed to Roma, which is kind of like 50-50 for Roma because their biggest loss is 2-0, 2-0. Yes, they didn't score, but the scoreline it wasn't as bad as some of the other teams that are in the some of the other teams that are in this round of elimination, and especially against their opponents. And then their biggest win is a 4-0 win, which obviously proves that they score a lot and they are good at keeping their composure when up ahead. They don't get sloppy. Their form has also been better, only losing once, drawing once, and then winning as well once. And then, Feyenoord have not won. So, it's not looking good for Feyenoord, and I don't think it's going to be good at all for them in this fixture either, though they do have some good players. I do believe Roma as overall has a better team, but collectively they play, I think, better. So out of these two teams, I'm going to pick Roma to go through to the round of 16. Moving on to the second fixture, we have AC Milan against Rennes. So AC Milan was obviously in one of the toughest groups in the Champions League, and unfortunately didn't go through to the next round in the Champions League, but is here in the Europa League. Rennes, pretty good. Pretty good is an understatement. Really, is a good or great run in the Europa League so far. But let's go over the stats. So AC Milan have won 2 games, drawn twice, and then lost twice. They have scored 5 but conceded 8. Their last 3 games, they have won, they have lost, and they have won, so 2 wins and a loss. Their biggest win is a 2-1 win against. The biggest win is a 2-1 win against Paris Saint-Germain or PSG and against Newcastle. So when they've won by the same score margin. And their biggest loss is a 3-0 loss against PSG. Rennes, on the other hand, have played 6 games, won 4, have drawn none, and lost twice, scoring 13 goals, conceding 6, and the last 3 games have been a win, and a loss, so 2 wins and a loss. Their biggest win is a 3-0 win against Maccabi Haifa. I think I pronounced that correctly. Sorry if I butchered it. And their biggest loss is a 3-2 loss against Villarreal. So it's going to be a close game, simply because both teams seem fairly even, considering the level of opposition that AC Milan have faced and the squad that they possess. So it's going to be a fairly, I think, in my opinion, it's going to be a fairly, not even on paper, I would go for Milan simply because they have really good players. Their star player, or in my opinion, their star player, Rafael, being there, they have good players. AC Milan, Rennes have good players as well, but it looks fairly even in terms of stats. Say in their last 3 games, they have equal form, so 2 wins for both of them and a loss. In terms of goals scored, AC Milan does lack, only scoring 5, and Rennes scoring 13, which shows they got firepower up front. Goals conceded, only 6 for Rennes and then 8 by Milan. So Milan have a -3 goal difference as opposed to Rennes, who have a +7. Their biggest win, 3-0 Rennes, and then their biggest loss is a 3-2 against Villarreal. So goes to show Rennes is a really tough opponent, because even though their biggest loss is a 3-2 loss, it shows that they didn't give up without a fight, scoring twice against Villarreal and making the game very close and tight, as opposed to AC Milan. When they did lose, they didn't look like they gave much of not much of a fight, but they couldn't show for all their fight in the game against PSG. So something to look out for, I would say. But out of both of these teams, although on paper Rennes looks like, or not on paper, but in terms of stats, Rennes looks like the better team, I do believe AC Milan has a lot of good qualities going forward, and it's a very misleading stat line for them, because they have proven to be very prolific going forward in these past couple of seasons. So even making it to, I believe, the semifinals last year in the Champions League. So very, 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 very strong squad. So between AC Milan and Rennes, I will have to go for not Rennes. I will have to go for AC Milan. AC Milan. I will have to go for AC Milan. Moving on to the third fixture, it's gonna be Lens against Freiburg. So Lens being the team from the Champions League, and then Freiburg being the runner-up in Europa. So Lens, 6 games played, 2 wins, 2 draws, and then 2 losses. Scored 6, conceded 10. Their form is 2 losses and a win. Their biggest win is a 2-1 win against Arsenal and Sevilla. So they've won twice, and both of those games have been by a 2-1 margin. And their biggest loss is a 6-0 loss against Arsenal. Freiburg, on the other hand, 6 games played, 4 wins, 0 draws, 2 losses, 17 goals scored, 7 conceded. Their form has been 2 wins and a loss in the last 3 games. Biggest win is a 5-0 win against DSC Bakatopla. Sorry if I'm butchering that name. And against Olympiacos as well. And their biggest loss is a 2-0 loss against West Ham. So, something to know here. So goals scored 6 and 6 goals scored and 10 conceded by Lens. So that's a -4 goal difference. And then Freiburg have a +10. Their form is the complete opposite. Instead of 2 losses and a win, Freiburg has 2 wins and a loss. So they both have opposite forms. And the biggest win is the biggest win and biggest losses are obviously the most notable stats, where Freiburg have not once but twice managed to beat their opponents, 2 separate opponents as well, by a margin of 5 goals to 0. And then in terms of losses, it looks like Lens does seem to break down or give up after, I guess, being down a lot, because Arsenal have managed to put 6 past them, so shows something. And then Freiburg, when they have losses, been 2-0, at least their biggest loss. So it's not too bad. Between both of these teams, I would have to go for Freiburg to win this fixture. I think Freiburg have a lot of, obviously by their goals they score, they have a lot of goals up top, and pretty solid defense, only allowing 7, but scoring more than twice the amount of goals that they conceded. So really, really, really good stat for them. I have confidence that Freiburg will go on to the next round. Moving on to the fourth fixture, we got Young Boys against Sporting CP. So Young Boys being the team from the Champions League and Sporting CP being the team from the Europa League. So Young Boys have played 6 games, 1 win, 1 draw, and 4 losses, scoring 7 and conceding 13. Last 3 games have been a loss, a win, and a loss. Biggest win, or should I say their only win, is a 2-0 win against Rennes Svezda, if I pronounce that correctly, and their biggest loss is a 3-0 loss against Man City. Sporting CP, 6 games played, 3 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, 10 goals scored, 6 conceded. Their last 3 games have been a win, a draw, and a win. Biggest win is a 3-0 win against Stromkas, and then their biggest loss is a 2-1 loss against Atalanta. Again, I think this one's kind of the easiest one to, one of the easier ones to, I guess, predict, and I do predict for Sporting CP to go through, simply because I just think they're in way better form, as well as I think their defense is pretty good in terms of when they've lost by their biggest margin. Sporting CP have managed to score a goal, get a goal back, and then Young Boys, 3-0 against Man City. So, yeah. And yet again, I know it's hard, to win against Man City, or at least to get a result against Man City. So, there's also that. But still, only managing 1 win in their group stage, 1 draw and 4 losses. Yes, I don't think it's good enough even for a team that's won down from the Champions League to Europa League. I still think Sporting CP have the upper hand here. So between Young Boys and Sporting CP, I will have to go for Sporting CP to go to the next round. Moving on to the fifth fixture, we got Benfica against Toulouse. I think hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Toulouse. I think it's Toulouse. Benfica being the team from the Champions League. Have 6 games played, 1 win, 1 draw, 4 losses, scoring 7, conceding 11. The last 3 games have been a loss, a draw, and a win. Biggest win is a 3-1 win against Salzburg. And their biggest loss is a 3-1 loss against Real Sociedad. Toulouse, on the other hand, has 6 games played, 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss, 8 games, 8 goals scored, 9 goals conceded. Last 3 games have been a win, a draw, and a win. Their biggest win is a 3-2 win against Liverpool, and their biggest loss is a 5-1 loss against Real Sociedad. Against Liverpool. So the biggest win and biggest loss have been against Liverpool. So, how shall I take this? Well, both teams have a pretty bad goal difference. Obviously, Benfica's record, same as Young Boys, have not been flattering at all. But both these teams look not that good in my opinion, especially Benfica. But Benfica has a -3 goal difference. No, not -3. -4 goal difference, and Toulouse is a -1, so still negative, even though they still went through. But it's not that good of a stat line to have. It's gonna be tough. The biggest win, Salzburg still conceded 2 goals by Liverpool. Although Liverpool, it's not an easy opponent, really good team, obviously. But their biggest loss is what concerns me, conceding 5. And then Benfica with 3-1 and 3-1 for both biggest win and biggest loss. That's kind of tough to decide which one I think is gonna go through. But I know I still think between both of these 2 teams, I think I might have to go with specifically going purely off the stats. I will have to go with I don't know why, but I just think Benfica's gonna win, even though their stats are worse. And I know I was gonna go purely off stats, but I just think Benfica's gonna edge this through. I just think that's how it's gonna be. Although I did see. Okay, the reason is because I did see the game, their biggest win, which is Liverpool. I did see that game, and honestly, they were winning comfortably, or not. I want to say comfortably, but they looked like they had the momentum for them to finish the game comfortably. But Liverpool made the subs and almost tied it up in a very small time window, and that really concerns me for this team, because it goes to show that game management, it wasn't really there like that, as opposed to Benfica, who Benfica haven't been doing well in the Champions League, so I can't really say I was opposed to Benfica, but I just think Benfica probably, I think Benfica will go through simply because even they have similar goals scored, except the level of difference in their opponents and their groups is obviously different. And if you play that into consideration, then I will go. I'm a big Benfica over Toulouse, but I wouldn't be surprised if Toulouse does win against Benfica. But yeah, I'm gonna have to pick Benfica to go through the next round. Moving on to the 6th fixture, we have Braga against Qarabag. If I butchered that name. So Braga is the team from the Champions League that's been demoted. So 6 games played, 1 win, 1 draw, and 4 losses. 6 goals conceded, or goals scored, 12 conceded. Last 3 games have been a loss, a draw, and a loss. The biggest win is against Union Berlin, 3-2. And their biggest loss is a 3-0 loss against Real Madrid. Qarabag, 6 games played, 3 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, 7 goals scored, 9 conceded. Loss, draw, win has been their form last 3 games, and their biggest win is a 2-1 win against Haken, and their biggest loss is a 5-1 win against Leverkusen. Whew. Now both of these teams, oh no, this is gonna be hard because both teams are really good on paper or on stats, because both the teams are pretty bad. If you say so, if I do say so myself, simply because look, think about it like this: their biggest win is a 2-1 win against Haken, okay, and their biggest loss is a 5-1 loss against Leverkusen. They got second in the group with the stats of scoring 7 with a -2 goal difference. Oh no, that doesn't look too good for Qarabag against Braga, because Braga came from a pretty difficult group. I think it consisted of Real Madrid, Napoli, and what was the other team in that? It was Napoli, Real Madrid, them, and there was one more. I can't seem to remember what other team was in that group as well. Napoli, Real Madrid. I can't remember. Top of my head. There was one other team, but it's a fairly complicated group for them. You know, it's a group that many will struggle in, and Qarabag, I don't know. I don't think those stats are good enough. And if I'm being honest, coming from the level of competition Braga is coming from, although the form, you know, fairly similar. Only difference is that Qarabag managed to get 1 win in the last 3, and the biggest win fairly similar between Braga and the other team is Union Berlin, so that's the other team. It's right here in my stats, Union Berlin. So it's a fairly complicated group. So yeah, you know, plus our -6 goal difference for Braga, and some -2 for Qarabag. But see, that's what concerns me is the goal scored. That both teams have the only difference between them is 1. Qarabag's only scored 1 more goal than them, and that's what's concerning. Because these stats that Qarabag have would have got them automatically. I mean, not the wins drawn and lost stat, but the goals scored and goals conceded stat. If they had these type of goals in the Champions League, they wouldn't even make it out the group. Like, that's pretty poor. So I do think Braga, you know, I'm gonna have to go with Braga. I think Braga's gonna win this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Braga winning this fixture. Okay, moving on to number 7, we got Galatasaray against Sparta Prague. So, Galatasaray has has played 6 games. Won once, tied twice, and then lost 3 times. Scored 10 goals, conceded 13. Last 3 games have been a loss, drawn, a loss. Their biggest win is a 3-2 win against Manchester United, and their biggest loss is a 3-1 loss against Bayern Munich. Sparta Prague, on the other hand, 6 games played, 3 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, 9 goals scored, 7 conceded. Last 3 games, loss, win. The biggest win is a 3-1 win against Aris Limassol, and the biggest loss have been against Betis and Rangers, and they have the same scoreline of 2-1. Okay, this is a bit more even, in my opinion, because obviously Sparta Prague has better wins and draws and losses because they got second in the group, and Galatasaray got third in the group. But the group that Galatasaray in was also not the easiest group at all. They had Man U. Obviously, a lot of people don't think Man U is good, or hasn't even been good in the recent. You can say since they last won the Prem, but they had Man U. They have Copenhagen, and they had one more. Who was it? Oh, they had Bayern Munich. So, yeah, it's a pretty tough group considering the level of position they had. And even then, they still managed to do pretty good in terms of their goal scoring and goals conceded, which is a -3, but scored 10 goals. Pretty good. If I do see myself against the level opposition, as opposed to Sparta having 9 goals and 7 conceded, has a +2 goal difference, which is also pretty good because that means you score more than you conceded, which in my books at least is always better. The biggest win, very similar only difference is level of opposition. Obviously, Man United is a better level opposition than Aris Limassol, but nonetheless, a pretty big, or not pretty big, pretty good scoreline. Their biggest loss, Sparta Prague lost by narrow margins. You could say similar to Galatasaray, even though 3-1, I think it's a bit bigger. Two-goal margin is a bit bigger than a 1. But you have to consider level opposition as well, which is Bayern Munich. Come on. But Betis and Rangers are also pretty good level of opposition. So it's gonna be a fairly even match. But I'm gonna have to go with Galatasaray on this one. Moving on to fixture number 8, the final fixture, which it's just a fixture. Okay, this fixture I believe is gonna be I think it's gonna be the best fixture because they're very even, in my opinion. It's gonna be it's gonna be a good watch, but it's gonna be between Shakhtar Donetsk and Marseille. So Shakhtar Donetsk have played 6 games, won 3, drawn none, and lost 3. Scored 10 goals, conceded 12. Last 3 games have been a win and a loss. Biggest win is a 3-2 win against Royal Antwerp, and the biggest loss is a 5-3 win or loss against Porto. Marseille, on the other hand, have played 6, won 3, lost 2, drawn 2, and then lost 1. Scoring 14, conceding 10. Last 3 games have been a win and a loss. The biggest win is a 4-3 win against Ajax, and the biggest loss is a 1-0 loss against Brighton. So this is going to be a very good fixture, and I think this is the fixture that I'm going to, keep my eyes on a lot, because it's the one fixture that is not heavily to one side or another. I think it's fairly even, considering the level of opposition both teams have played. I think it's fairly even. So Shakhtar Donetsk come from in the group of Barca, Antwerp, and Porto. So not the strongest group, I would say, compared to the other groups in Champions League, but the opposition is pretty high there. They haven't drawn once, which is something you keep a note at. So they either lose or win a game. There's no in between, as far as we know. Something this team does possess is a lot of goals, scoring 10 goals in 6 matches, which is a lot. And conceding 12, which is also a lot, that's an average of 2 goals conceded per game, which is not the best. Which probably would explain why they tie and either win or lose a lot of games. If you take note, in the wins and losses, they score a lot of goals. If they win, they score a lot. If they lose, they score a lot. So something to keep a note of. As opposed to Marseille, obviously 14 goals scored, 10 conceded. So that's a +4. Shakhtar have a -2. Biggest win 4-3 against Ajax. Now Ajax this season has been completely disappointing. I don't know what's going on with them, to be honest. If you do know what's going on with Ajax, let me know down below, because it's such a sad thing to see their downfall. And their biggest loss is a 1-0 loss against Brighton, so it's a very narrow margin 1-0. It's crazy. It's going to be a very tight match, honestly, because Shakhtar Donetsk, biggest loss 5-3, so that means they have a lot of fight in them. Yes, they conceded 5, but this is still managed to score 3. Brighton, strong opposition, pretty good team in the Prem. Some would say. Marseille lost 1-0. It's a very narrow margin, so it's hard to say for them, because the losing position that they have, because they have only lost 1, is a narrow position or narrow margins, and not really a lot to go off from in that. But they have tied twice, whether that's from being in front or being in behind. They still managed to tie a game. If it's coming back from behind, it shows a lot of great character that the team has. If it's from being in front and some other team coming from behind, then it also shows the kind of a leaky or lack of concentration to keep a score. So it just depends, but it's good. I think this is the most evenly matched fixture we have. So between both these teams, though, okay, I think between Shakhtar Donetsk and Marseille. I'm gonna have to go with Marseille. I just think Marseille will get through. I'm confident in them. So, yeah, I'm going with Marseille. And yeah, guys, that'll be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, this is all my opinion. Don't think anything, too deep. Don't think about it too deep. And just, yeah, let me know down below your predictions. What do you think is going to go through? And yeah, like, comment, subscribe. And until next time.